Right, I've come back to the devastation of what I've done to the air box, the sort of intake bit. Now this is very stubborn, it wouldn't come out. The head rusted off, so yes, it looks a bit destructive what I've done. I've got the sensor here cleaned up, so it all looks alright to me. That wasn't creating a fault anyway, so unless I've done something to it in the meantime. But you obviously couldn't reattach it. I know I could have just stuck it on, but I think a screw. So I've got a kind of not such a rusty thing to put in it. Gonna put that in there, and then that hole here will all be filled in because obviously it's been a bit destructive attacking that. And I'll show you what came out. The bit that came out was this. After I sort of tried to drill it, it just was really stubborn. It's one of those really awkward kind of things. I have got some of these. They're just a bit. I've got that, but it's a bit short, and the thing's not as wide. And these are a little bit wider and a little bit longer. So I'm just going to check with the sensor back on. I'm not going to go through a lot of detail on this, that this fits and it works. I mean, this just has got a nice seal on it so that it sits on here. Orientation is easy to find, and then once that's on, and then just working out the best way of getting that positioned, screwed in so it's tight, and then just fill in the hole behind, because it's kind of gone through into the chamber a little bit. So that's what this stuff will do. It'll fill it in. That's really tough stuff. Okay, that's what I've done with that. Right, so I have decided that I'm going to take this off and give this a clean as well. I just feel like if I'm taking basically everything else, I might as well take this off and give it a good clean. Why Mrs. Green has locked me out. Right, yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Right, so there you go, that's what a Mini looks like without its head gasket on. Without its valve cover on. What I'm slightly concerned about after getting this off is that there might be a bit of a leak at the back. Not a leak, but a kind of, it's not sealed properly very greatly at the back, which might explain a bit of the mayonnaise coming through. It's a bit frustrating because that was a brand new valve cover gasket, but just gonna have to have a little, make sure everything goes back on nice and tight when it gets put back on. Make sure that this is all cleaned and cleaned up so it's not got any mayonnaise on it. Right, a few more thoughts about this. I've cleaned it out now, kind of as much as I can. There's still a little bit of stuff in there. The only thing that's concerning me is this, where the PCB runs up along here, and then the output is on there. What I might do is when I start the engine, because there's no way to get the mayonnaise out from in there really, is to just leave that off initially, just to see whether anything sprays out of it, and obviously catch it. The other thing is, I don't know why this wasn't sealed, but I wonder whether when I put the valve cover on last time that it just was misaligned. It's certainly got depth to it. It's not crushed. You can see it's got a good amount of depth to it. So I'm just a little bit perturbed by this. That found this man. It would explain a bit more why. It's not just the short journeys, but it seems to be this. It seems to be this. This bit is leaking, or is letting in a bit of sort of moisture or air, which I'm very unhappy about because I was so careful when I put it back together last year. But there you go, such things. But you don't look at this stuff until you actually really take things apart. So you can obviously see it's sort of got a bit of rusty in here, but what can I do about that? Again, we're trying to get this car sort of up to a good standard so that it will. So anything I can do to improve it is great. Like I said, it doesn't make real sense as to why it could leak on these corners, because there's enough gasket to not leak to let it seal. So Not quite sure what happened there, whether it just didn't go on properly, but I'm going to be a lot more careful when I check it as I put it back on again now, and hopefully we'll get it better seal on there. Nothing else is leaking, so right, I'm going to put this back on now. Okay, right, just going to have a little look with my nice little mirror thing that I've got, just to make sure that we are properly looking sealed in there. So, looking good. Yeah, so nice and pushed down. Okay, as far as I can tell, that's now put back on. Hopefully it's sealed. To keep a bit of an eye on it probably and look for mayonnaise again, but definitely taking me a long time to get this done, isn't it? Especially as it should be simple. What car was it ever simple? Okay, right, we've got our little camshaft sensor here, Bosch one, nicely packaged in a box. And we're going to use that to replace that, and it's the wrong one. Okay, back to the drawing board. Okay, I'm not sure what we can see if we go down the back of the car, but I'll show you a few things that are down here. So they've got our inlets on the cylinder head. And if we go down and look a bit further, you can see the crossover pipe when you have how it goes from the water pump, which is, I don't know if I'm showing it very well because I'm holding the camera while I was trying to point. So that's where the water pump is, and that goes across over here to the thermostat somewhere. It's up this end, so it's all very hard to see. And then the let's turn this around again. Bracket down here, that's where the inlet manifold wasn't connected, and that's what was connected to it. So those two bits need to be looked at when I put it back on. So there you go, very exciting. Just kind of getting there slowly, trying to toss up whether or not to do the cap. Problem is I've seen all that mayonnaise in there, and I'm now thinking whether that's just contaminated everything and killed it. I'm going to have a look at the rear lambda sensor, I reckon, or oxygen sensor, and going to have a look at that next. So let's go and have a look at that. Alright, a very quick look at spark plug. You need an actual, these are quite narrow, these holes down here, so you need a narrow socket. I'll tell you the size on the video, but the ones I had were too wide, so I had to buy a different one. Let's have a quick look at this fella and just see that it's alright. Don't think there should be anything wrong with spark plugs. Haha. Keep saying these things. Don't say anything. Okay, what have we got? Looks alright actually. Kind of browny colour. So that one looks alright. I think that was the side that was concerning me in terms of where it might be not working. When you put spark plugs back in as well, always do them hand tight before you make sure, because if they're not easy to put in like this, they are threaded, and if you put in a threaded spark plug, especially into any cylinder head, you will end up regretting it, because it will be a nightmare. Spark plugs aren't very tight either, so don't go mad on tightening them up. Right, doesn't look ridiculous, so it's burning properly. It should be burning the fuel properly, because there's not. I think the emissions, possibly that mayonnaise thing, has caused a bit of a problem with that. See, if that's been leaking for a while and we've been getting the mayonnaise going in, it's been sucking it into the intake through the positive crankcase ventilation. There could be a lot of gunk going into the catalytic converter, which slightly concerns me. Or I suppose if you've got an air leak, it's going to run incorrectly, isn't it? So maybe that's giving the false readings as well. Just got to really go through quite a lot here, haven't we? Because we've got to make sure that we're happy that everything's working properly. It's not the cold packs, it doesn't have any misfires. Okay, having slight interesting time at the moment because I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm going to take this grill off because I might be taking this out because I need access to look at the catalytic converter possibly, because I have got a replacement catalytic converter I bought, which is a very reasonable £99, and I'm just tossing up as to whether to fit it, just because of the kind of stress that I'm under to get this done, and for this car to get roadworthy, because otherwise we are kind of the ferry service for my daughter, which we don't want to be. So if you were thinking about changing your air conditioning radiator, that's where it lives, and the actual cooling radiator lives behind it. This one is knackered. My daughter's car doesn't have air conditioning. It is something that she has asked me about, and I said I would do it, but currently with the condition of the car, it's probably not worth it. So in order to get into here, which is the sort of exhaust manifold bit, I'm going to remove this this portion here, which is like a I don't know, bit of the car front end, and it's not actually very much work to remove it. It's just I was kind of sort of avoiding doing things. So a couple of bolts here and here. Got these Torx ones here where the catches are. You have to disconnect the expansion tank and just let it drop forward, and then there's a couple of probably 13mm bigger bolts here. Then you have to undo the lights. You've got to get the the cable for the bonnet release. You have to take that off and gently release this so that you can unclip that, because this has to sort of undo so you can remove that. Again, it looks a bit complicated. It's not really. So while I've got everything apart and things are progressing, we will see. It just gives me more opportunity. It is a bit of a pain to get this shroud off from around the catalytic converter, but it's doable. I did it before and I'm about to do it again. So that's my plan at the moment, and I'll see how far I get, because time is running out. And the other thing you need, which I will explain, is that the O2 sensor needs a special tool to remove it because of the wires that go into it. So you buy these are crowfoot type ones, but they have a nice gap in them, and they are, I think, 22. That one's 22. That one's also 22. So the ones on this are 22, obviously, because I've got one of these. So I got that last time, but again, it's always, particular tools are really useful. Sure, you could do it another way, but these are just really handy. So make sure you've got something useful like that. Store that up there. So let's carry on. go all the way. Take the headlight connector off and the headlight. There we go. How dignified. It did come off and it's thrown itself onto the floor. Thank you very much. Right. Right, so these are 10s on here. There's a whole bunch of them. 3 on top to start with, which are the easy ones naturally. Last year I had the luxury of doing this in the garage because I didn't have a motorbike in there. Another motorbike, which I've since stripped down and taken to pieces. So I could just about fit the car in there. This year, poor Mini has to be repaired outdoors. Along with poor old me. There are some awkward fixings on this. Down a bit lower. Again, whoever did this before didn't put everything back on, but there are enough of them. So there's one in here that's a bit more obvious, but you can't get to the intake manifold without removing this. I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up having to grovel around a little bit, but there you go. Such is life. So again, these, I think because I've done it before, you prep yourself, don't you, a bit for the pain. Yeah, so that's what I remember. I've got a 10mm spanner somewhere. Hiding. Tidy up my tools in a minute. I'm going to end up too many tools. These are brilliant. These old flexi head brackets. But as long as you can get in there, go. So there's one there. Which I've done it a bit. Do the old call it yoga moves to get in there. Finger tight until you try and turn it. Yep, of course it is. The only thing I can say about working outside is there's more light. It's a bit harder when you're in a garage. See what's going on. Right, there's one down this side here as well. That's the aircon top-up pipe if you get aircon working. That's from there. These are all the same type of bolts. Oh yeah, this is what I found last time, was that because it hadn't all been put back on properly, that's enough to remove this bit, which hopefully will come out. Not too much of a horrible fight. That's the top part of the shroud we've got here. So if you were to do it properly, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got one over here that was missing probably, one in the middle, one there, 3 on top. And you can see the exhaust manifold there. The other fun part is, of course, getting all these bolts out. But again, last year I had a problem because whoever took them off before rounded them off. So this one over here looks a bit different because I couldn't get the damn thing off, and it caused me a big problem. And the Dremel kind of had to save it, but God, that was a faff. This bit here is like the gasket as well, so we'll work that out. And I can see, you can see in here, there's a bolt down there, hopefully. So there'll be a few more in there. Not actually taken the cat off before, so slightly concerning me to get into enough room to do it without putting. I'll try again. Like I say, I'm cheating in the sense of I'm trying not to get into pulling the front forward to put it into maintenance, but you might have to. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, it's not really my idea of fun right at this point in time. But the car needs to be repaired, otherwise I can't get my life back because I'm a very taxi service. The other thing as well that I ended up buying, because of all these sort of access issues, that different length extension bars, I've got a bunch of them, so I've got at least half a chance of finding one that will let me in to gain access without getting in the way. So now the oxygen or the O2, it's kind of got O2 sensors in the way. There's a little bracket, there's a bracket here where the O2 sensor's held, the connector for the O2. So I'm just going to see if I can undo that and make sure, and then we can push that out of the way. Make sure that you can actually see what I'm talking about. So there, another 10mm there. Just do this. Let's get a bit more into the engine. See if I can get the camera in a better position at some point. It's awkward filming this kind of stuff. Okay, so that's the front oxygen sensor. I do not know whether that looks good or bad, but I'm going to just keep that somewhere very safe, because you don't want that getting contaminated with a load of gunk. Very, very much so. Okay, so I've got to the point where this heat shield is released. I'm not sure I can get it out at the moment, but I might be able to maneuver it out if I was to undo all the bolts on here. So these are 11mm and they are copper bolts on an exhaust, so you've got to take them off. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 roughly. So take them off. They shouldn't be done like mega tight again, but obviously tight enough to keep them on. But and because they're copper, they're soft. So the problem I had last time is whoever took that particular bolt off had rounded it off. Although having said that, when I bought them I said they were copper, but it could just have rust on it from the shroud. But they are, that one, so that's a big one, I think that's a 13, but that'll be easy to get off because I've got that. And the other thing definitely want to invest in are good quality long sockets. These are from Halfords. So I'm just going to carry on with this. I'll try and do that again, like I said, minimum amount before I do anything like trying to push the front forward. Let's see if we can get the catalytic converter out, and underneath there's just a single clamp, like a clamp round with one bolt on it, nut that clamps this on. So it's not particularly big unit. Let's see if we could just have a look underneath, show you what I mean. So if we get under here, it clamps on, make sure we're not too close, it clamps on here with one bolt. So this is just the exhaust clamp here. So you can see it kind of comes, but what's concerning me again are these angles and whether I can actually get anything out once but this is all detached and loose. There's the supposedly the rear O2 sensor, which is the one that's supposed to go fab. But again, we'll have a little think about that as we get there. And there's a flexi joint there, so I don't know whether this could be removed by manoeuvring the exhaust. Once the bolts are taken out, it can be manoeuvred a bit. We shall find out. Okay, addendum as well. If you really got stuck with these, you can actually take these are Torx, or very small Torx, you know, as in the socket. The Torx sockets go on these, which I have also invested in. So you can get these off. They're studs that screw into the head. So if you got really stuck, you could probably take the stud off, and it will take the bolt with it. But I'm going to try first of all just to do this the old-fashioned way. Right. Okay, so I'd say the most awkward one is this one here, that is 1, 2, 3 along from the bottom, just because it's really hard to get to. You can just about get onto it with a sort of long necked spanner, but there's not a lot of room for manoeuvre. So there we go, everything's loose. So just got to go down into the bottom and just undo the clamp and see where we can go from there. So I have had to do this all before. Took off the cylinder head along with, you know, just masses of stuff you've got to take off to the cylinder head. You've got to take this off, you've got to jack up the engine from underneath, all the stuff on this side, and it's a big old job. Fuel injectors, rail, you know, fuel rail at the back here, the fuel injectors are all part of that. So you're going for the cylinder head, it is a big old job. But there you go, that's what we did last year. This is this year, and we're trying to do something a bit different. Not sure I'm convinced about any of it, but we'll soon find out. At least the cylinder head gasket isn't broken again. I've reached the point where I'm free on the exhaust and the catalytic converter, but I can't get it out. There's not enough room, so I now have to look for my options of what to do. But we are completely free. There's a couple of bolts that should be at the bottom of the catalytic converter. There was only one on one side, so again, whoever did this in the past did it quickly and badly. But there you go. So we are at that point. I still haven't put the manifold in at the back, intake, but that will be. It's not a big. It's not the biggest job, is it? This is the thing that kind of has got to get done. Obviously, kudos to whoever designed Minis, thinking that they never ever need to be serviced. But I know you can put it in a service position, so I'm just going to have a little look at what exactly that might mean or entail, and see what the general advice is to get this out, because I'm just wondering if it comes in, it's got to come in from the top. I mean, if that's the case, there just isn't enough room. You can't get the shield out. This is stuck. I don't really want to break it, so just going to have a bit of a think about where we go from here and how it gets to a point where we can actually get it off. I haven't taken out the bottom sensor, but at the moment that's scrapped. So we are at that position. So this is definitely time consuming so far. Right, so here's where I am at the end of another day. Lower O2 sensor off, upper one off. Looks alright. That one looks badly sort of threaded. There's a pig to get off. Hard work. The manifold's released, which contains the catalytic converter, so we're kind of okay there. I've got a mug with a tit on it, just to remind me that I am a tit for doing this job. And then various other bits lying around ready to go back in, including the intake manifold that I should have done my repair on with my nice gooey stuff that will hold in the airflow sensor. Like a complete moron as well, this camshaft position sensor I bought was wrong, even though the number was given on the repair when I looked it up on YouTube. Another tip, don't trust all YouTube videos giving you the right part number. So I will be finding another one of those. I need to get some more work lights because my work lights are dying a bit too quickly. Other than that, everything else is okay. I do doubly again recommend the old O2 sensor removal tool. They're brilliant. This crow's foot one is absolutely excellent. That's what undid the bottom sensor because it was at a really awkward angle. So I'm gonna have to continue tomorrow. I don't think anything terrible's kind of happened so far. I think it's good that we've cleaned out all the stuff, but there you go. So maybe I'll talk to the camera as well. Right, so this is me all nice and dirty after my bit of work. So I'm just, wondering how far should we go on this and how far have I got to go. So I've got to the point where I can get the exhaust manifold off and wiggling around, but there's no way it's coming out in the limited space. So I had a look under the car. There are two big bolts on either side of the underframe, and I can see copper slip on those. So I wonder whether, not wonder, I know that you can move the car forward for a service position. So I'm going to have a little bit of a research on that and see whether I can do that without having to go mental and remove everything. And that's where I kind of got to now. So I'm at that position where, in order to get out the catalytic converter and in the exhaust manifold, we've got to get a bit more of a gap in there. The design of these things is, of course, absurd, but you might be sort of laughing at me, but I'm used to working on a Land Rover, and I know the Land Rover engine's tight, but still there's more room in the Land Rover engine bay than there ever was in a Mini engine bay. Plus, I'm trying to minimize the amount of time, so I only take things off if I absolutely have to. So that's the difference that probably we're going to. But there you go. I may be a muppet, I may be a man. We'll find out soon enough, but we will continue our adventure tomorrow.